It was a Tuesday night when she said it. The words came out between slow sips of wine and the flickering glow of the kitchen light. "I want a fresh start," she murmured, eyes fixed somewhere past me, as if the idea already lived beyond our walls. The phrase didn't hit like a bomb. It was quieter, colder. Clean incision. At first I thought she meant therapy, a vacation, maybe new paint on the bedroom walls. That's how you interpret something like that when you're still in love. You look for the smallest, safest meaning. But the pause that followed, the way she didn't meet my eyes, the way her thumb nervously twisted her ring, made my stomach tighten. "Fresh start," I repeated, testing the words. "For us." She hesitated. Then, almost too softly to hear, "For me." That silence, heavy, still, stretching, was the beginning of the end. Over the next few weeks, I watched her become someone unfamiliar. She began going out more, calling it clearing her head. New perfume, new clothes, late-night texts that she dismissed with quick laughter. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself she deserved space. After all, maybe I'd been distant too. Maybe this was her way of finding herself again, and I was supposed to be patient. But love has a way of making you both blind and paranoid at the same time. You notice the smallest shifts, the way her tone softened when she spoke to someone over the phone, the sudden bursts of happiness when she thought I wasn't looking. One night I reached for her hand in bed and she flinched. Not dramatically, just a small, instinctive movement, but it was enough to tell me I wasn't the person she wanted touching her anymore. I should have asked her then. I should have demanded the truth. But I didn't. I let the silence rot between us. 2 weeks later, she told me she was going to stay at her sister's for the weekend. "Just to think," she said, brushing her hair into a bun. She kissed my cheek like a stranger would, out of politeness, not affection. That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house echoed. The refrigerator hum felt louder, the clock ticked slower. Something in my chest refused to settle. Around midnight I opened her laptop. It wasn't locked. Maybe she forgot. Maybe she wanted me to see. Her messages were full of warmth, but not for me. There were photos. Smiles I hadn't seen in months. One message burned itself into my memory. "Can't wait to start over with you." Start over. Those were her words. A fresh start. The next morning she texted me, "I might stay an extra night." I replied, "Take all the time you need." Then I spent the day collecting every piece of her life that still lingered in our home. The framed photos, her books, her favorite coffee mug. I packed them neatly in boxes and stacked them by the door. Every item felt like a confession I hadn't wanted to read. That evening, I drove past her sister's house. The driveway was empty. My chest tightened as I kept driving past the familiar streets until I found her car, parked outside a small apartment complex on the other side of town. I sat there for a long time, engine running, watching the lights in one of the upper windows. At one point, I saw her silhouette move past the curtain, laughing. I couldn't see who she was with, but I didn't need to. The sound of my own heartbeat drowned out everything else. It's strange. The moment you realize love has turned into something unrecognizable. It doesn't feel like a snap. It feels like slow erosion. One grain of trust at a time until there's nothing left but ache. I didn't confront her that night. I drove home, sat in the dark, and stared at the wedding photo still hanging on the wall. I thought about how we looked that day, so sure, so blind. When she came home 2 days later, she was quiet. She seemed surprised that I didn't ask where she'd been. Instead, I poured her a cup of coffee and said calmly, "You found your fresh start, didn't you?" She froze. Her eyes filled with tears, but not the kind born from regret. More like the kind that come when you've been caught and don't know how to lie anymore. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "You never do." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way I expected. What I felt was something quieter. Final. I told her I'd start looking for a new place. She begged me not to make any decisions yet, said she was confused, that she didn't want to lose everything we'd built. But I could see it in her eyes. She'd already left long before I knew. In the weeks that followed, she tried to patch things together. She deleted the photos, cut off contact, cried in the kitchen. I listened, but my heart was gone. Some things don't break, they dissolve. One night, I got a message from the man she'd been seeing. It wasn't cruel or defensive. Just a few words. She told me she was single. I didn't reply. What was there to say? We were both living in her illusion. A few months later, I ran into her at the grocery store. She looked smaller somehow, tired, haunted. She smiled like we were old friends who hadn't spoken in years. "How have you been?" she asked. "Starting fresh," I said. Her smile faltered. She nodded, but her eyes said everything. She finally understood what it meant to start over and lose what you never thought you'd lose. That night, I sat on my balcony, a glass of whiskey in hand, watching the city lights flicker like dying stars. I thought about the irony of it all. How people crave new beginnings, not realizing how many endings they have to bury first. She wanted a fresh start. She got it. But she never expected it to mean starting without me. And maybe that's the cruelest truth of all, that sometimes the thing you wish for most becomes the thing that ruins you.